I'm ready.
Hi, today we're here with DCN. Can you tell us your name and role in the company?
Sure, I'm Roger Dewey. I'm Executive Vice President and co-founder of Device Cloud Networks.
Great. So what is the main problem that DCN saw needed to be solved?
Sure. DCN solves the problem with managing global connectivity for machines and devices. You have an issue for companies that are selling globally machines and devices in that they need to manage the subscriptions based on where the machine's going to be deployed or sold. And this causes manufacturing, logistics. You have to have different SKUs, different production runs running down a production line, and it's just not very efficient. Most people who are in industry, who aren't part of the wireless or mobile world, assume, because they're basing their assumptions on the wired or traditional internet. You build one version of a product, ship it anywhere in the world, and it works on the internet. You don't have to know who your TSP is, and you don't buy a version of the product that only works with that TSP. So if you're going to be building, let's say, connected vehicles, a car that you want to ship anywhere in the world or in a region, you get into these problems. I mean, if you just take Europe as an example. When you're going to embed connectivity in it at the time of manufacture, well, then that vehicle can only be sent to that country that has that subscription. So now all of a sudden you've done a production run of cars that are specific for maybe Italy because they all have Italian subscriptions in them. And let's say your demand is not so much demand in Italy, but we have more demand in Germany. What are you going to do? You're kind of stuck. So the other alternative is to put the subscription in at the time of distribution, which becomes another set of problems because now you have loose SIM cards floating around, you have potential for fraud. And for something like a car, the telematics box and the subscription is pretty hard to get at by design. They don't want you to get into it. So it's, it's under the engine and that sort of stuff. So you think you have to get a mechanic or an engineer to do that at time of the distribution, and you think that's a high cost, high complexity, but of zero value to the consumer, zero value to the enterprise or OEM. And it's really just because of the nature of the mobile internet being not really a global mobile internet, but a series of extranets that are linked together through roaming. And you really can't use roaming. You need local subscriptions because the roaming rates don't make any sense. And it's also got to do with the ability to get diagnostics and understand where a machine is at any given time and how it's behaving in a network. So DCN has come up with a solution that solves that problem for all sorts of industries and vertical applications. We have one point of interconnection. We actually own and control our own operator in Reykjavik in Iceland. And we have a device management platform, a machine-to-machine platform that sits on top of our core network. And we allow our customers, the OEMs, to go source connectivity from different operators around the world, but they're not sourcing SIM cards, they're sourcing subscriptions, IMSIs. And those IMSIs are then put on the core network in Iceland. We have what's called a multi-tenant HLR, and so it can handle the subscriptions of multiple different operators. And the OEM sources ranges of IMSIs, let's say, because they're going to have 100,000 cars, so it'll be a range in sequence. And in the SS7 signaling network, they say for this range, this IMSI range, don't point the traffic to our core network, point it to the core network up in Iceland. And again, that gives that that OEM the ability to integrate their IT system into only one platform, not multiple platforms around the world. But we then give them a SIM card, any form factor, a traditional form factor, or what's called an MFF2, which is a surface-mounted chip, basically a hardware component that gets flow soldered onto the board at time of manufacture. Every one of them comes out with an Icelandic subscription. Okay, so wherever you're building around the world, you build everything. It starts off with an Icelandic subscription, so you have only one part number, one production run. You ship it anywhere in the world, and when you turn it on the first time, it attaches to the network. And since we are an operator, we have over 400 roaming agreements that gives us connectivity in 186 different countries. But that roaming is only used that first one time. It attaches to the network, goes home to Iceland and says, "Hey, I'm roaming in France." And the platform is configured in such a way to say that's because you're supposed to be French. And what it does is it picks one of the French subscriptions off our network, and through standard over-the-air technology, reprograms that SIM to make it a local French subscription. So now you have a car that is operating with a local French subscription and a French radio network, but all the traffic is really being managed out of the core in Iceland. So this really allows the OEM to have an experience that's much like the traditional wired internet. We take care of all that problems for them. They don't have to go through this integration, and they don't have to integrate into different platforms around the world.
Okay, great. So if I understand correctly, today it's a very complex and costly situation where the car has to be manufactured ready to go to a specific country, and then your solution enables the car to go wherever the car should be going, and then completely through the internet, it's able to configure the SIM to live where it should live.
And even if it moves. So if you sell it, let's say in Switzerland originally, downloads a Swiss subscription, but maybe 2 years later sells it to a guy in Germany. Right now, that OEM's got a problem delivering telematics services because, well, how do we do that? We can't pull that car back in. It's not cost effective. Here again, just you've got a new owner in Germany, we can do it all over again. Just download a German subscription to it. It's always local throughout its entire life cycle.
Sounds great. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Did that make any sense?